Final hour Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Best bets later in the hour. Mark Schlereth coming up for some NFL talk. We're well into camps throughout the NFL now. Knock on wood, no major injuries yet, right? Like you always know that that's coming. Someone's going to do something. Sucks. Mm-hmm. But it's just the nature of the beast. Like the way football's played, the aggressiveness of camps. A lot of it even is just, like you don't even get touched. You just, blow your knee out or something like that.
Non-contact
running
stuff,
a route,
man.
non-contact.
Achilles, ACL. It feels like it happens every year at this time of year, or we're leading up to it.
Yeah, it's the worst. So, there's nicks and bruises, and there's some guys that certainly are not, participating every day, but nothing like major yet. So that's a good sign. And, what are we, 4 weeks tomorrow, I think, away from opening night.
There we go.
Like, it's quick before you get cooking here in the NFL. So, yeah, Mark Schlereth will join us here in just a moment. Heartbreak in that Houston game last night, man. Framber Valdez had a no-hitter with 2 outs in the 9th. And Corey Seager took him deep, hit a 2-run shot, and then he gets pulled. He doesn't even get the complete game. So he's 1 out away, possibly 1 pitch away from a no-hitter, and they still ended up winning that game. But not only did he not get the no-hitter, he didn't even complete the game. They went to the bullpen. Like, how heartbreaking is that? No-hitter broken up with 2 outs in the 9th.
The no-hitter getting broken up, I feel like that's heartbreaking. Not getting the complete game, I don't feel like that's as big of a thing.
Well, not compared to a no-hitter, clearly.
I know, but like the complete game, Gosman will throw a complete game. You know what I mean? It's just like guys throw complete games. Like the no-hitter for sure is
obviously that's
the
thing. Of course the no-hitter is. The point is you have 26 outs on your resume without giving a hit. You got the win, they got to hit, and someone else, they had to go to the bullpen. Like the fact that you couldn't even close and get that 27th out.
I know.
It's just it's like this is where statistics can fool you. Because you'd look maybe at his stat line and say, okay, well, he went 8, and he gave up, he gave up a hit and a home run. Oh, that's a pretty good game. Meanwhile, if you were watching, you're like, this guy had a no-hitter.
I know.
Through 8 2/3, Strud. Like that's crushing to be that close and get it taken away from you.
And I think that's you're crushed when the ball leaves, it goes over the outfield.
Yes.
I think that the fact that he got pulled, I think that the damage is done already.
Sure.
I don't think it really, it's like a goalie, your first shutout, and it's foiled by a bad goal with 10 seconds left. Like you're distraught. If they pulled you after, you'd be like, oh, whatever. Like it doesn't really matter, right? It's that big moment in that time, and I think that's what hurts.
And he was cruising, man. He had like 106 pitches at that point. Like that's pretty neat and tidy.
A lot of gas in the tank.
It wasn't like he was at 120 and he was really burning it. Like,
yeah, it's too bad. It's a crushing way to lose something, like other examples in pro sports. We see it in the Olympic Games, like a long distance race where you lose on the last 10 meters.
Oh.
Like if you're the leader of a race, like a marathon, and you've been the pace car for hours, and on the last 10 meters, someone blows past you, it's just got to be crushing to your soul. Like crushing. I was watching that stupid race where they jump over, then there's water, there's a puddle for some reason that they got to go over.
Steeplechase.
Is that what it is, steeplechase?
Love it.
What the hell's the point of the water? Why have a puddle there? Just to bother people and have wet shoes and socks? Why do that, Struddy? Can you speak on behalf of the IOC?
Yeah, no, listen, I'm not going to be their voice box, but I do think that I kind of like it because it's kind of like traditional, right? Something different that they maybe had done in olden times. And
right.
they have to run in the infield and jump over the puddle. But I like it, that, and then the other jumps, because I think running that far and continually jumping every however many meters, I think that'd be really hard. It'd be a real challenge. I love that, actually. I've become a pretty big fan of long distance running. I didn't used to like it. Now I'm kind of into it. I've got a whole new, like I'm talking anything over, 800 meters. Not that I don't like the 800 meters, but I used to just blow through it. Mm-hmm. Now I'm checking it out. I'm into it, boys.
Dude, when you watch the Olympics now, Struddy, do you get a little bit of PTSD from the days where you were training to play hockey and you had like the track days? Like, are you thinking about those days at all?
Yeah, I mean, yes. And the scary thing is that I used to think I was somewhat fast. And I remember my trainer would say, like, you're not that fast. But in your head, you think you're fast. And then you watch these real athletes run, and you're like, oh, yeah, those guys or girls are fast. So it's that's hard, Frank. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like the track days, they used to tell us early in the summer, pace yourself a little bit. This is a paced run. And you know the way guys get, right? They can't pace themselves for 400 meters because it's like, oh, no, that guy's ahead of me. No, I'm going to go a little bit faster. And then by the end of it, guys are looking at each other like, it's June 15th. What the hell are we doing? Why are we sprinting 400 meters? But I don't know. Guys just could never pace themselves. It always turned into a race. When you're with the guys, it always turns into a race.
Yeah. So I guess the steeplechase, it originated as like, what was it, JP? Give me the full breakdown.
So what I found from this article was that the steeplechase originated as like an outdoor running competition that had natural obstacles you would have to jump over.
Okay.
So this is supposed to replicate that sort of atmosphere.
I understand that, but it's not anymore. Like, it's just, like, what's the point of the one puddle? You know what I mean? Like, why do you need the one water? Why is that? Just to bother people? Like,
dude,
just to make it annoying.
Why do they put water on golf courses?
Well,
just but that make it annoying.
But that I understand. Like, you have to avoid that. You can't avoid this water. You have to run into it. Like, you have to jump over it, and you're like, oh, great, it's soaking now. Like, how is that like athletics? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of the puddle, Struddy? You're a long distance aficionado. You tell me why the puddle has to be there to bother people.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say I am the all-knowing wise man when it comes to the long-distance running, but I think it's just something different, right? It's just a different thing, and there is tradition. Like, even like the length of the marathon, it's very like arbitrary, right? What is it, 42.6 or whatever kilometers? Like, that's just a random length. So I think it's just part of it's also tradition. But I'd be interested to know, like, does someone decide in high school they're going to be the steeplechase? Like, that's
how do you get into that? Exactly. Like, how do you say this is going to be my craft?
It's like the guy who plays in a rock band. He plays guitar, but he's not that good, so they make him play the bass.
Yeah, you got to have someone that can play the bass,
right? So they're like, "Hey, man, can you do the steeple?"
Yeah, we need someone to run the steeple, and we think you'd be good with that.
Exactly. That's the classic line.
Yeah.
We think you'd be good at it.
We think you'd be. In other words, you stink at everything else, so we need you to do that.
Okay, hold on.
Shots fired at bass players.
Bass players and steeplechase.
Let's not fire shots at steeplechase. Okay, like these guys
careful,
are
man.
These
be
guys
careful.
Are high-end athletes.
I love the athletes. I just hate the puddle. That's all. I have an issue with the puddle. I don't have an issue with the athletes.
We are not firing shots at the athletes who are at the Olympics.
Okay, let's bring in a former athlete himself, Super Bowl winner, NFL on Fox analyst, host of the Stinkin Truth podcast. Here's Mark Schlereth. What's happening, Mark?
How are you guys? It's always great to be with you.
Yeah, great having you on, man. We appreciate you doing this. We're early into camp, and I was saying, and I feel like I'm going to jinx things, but like no major injuries, that I'm aware of. Like I get nervous for these guys through camps, man. And you ran camp. You would have been in so many camps throughout your career. How often is that like either a topic of discussion with the coaching staff? How do you avoid it where like some guy probably is going to blow out his knee or something crazy is going to happen, and you're not even going to get to the real stuff for another 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, it's always one of those things that concerns you. And, we always had kind of a philosophy, if you're kind of lollygagging, it's going to happen. So it was always full go, full speed. And you just hope for the best. I think it has become more prevalent here in recent years because we do less and less football stuff. Our Players Association, we're just, and I put myself in this, we're just, we negotiate from a position of weakness. So we can't get anything that's worth a crap. So, we can't get lifetime insurance. We don't get anything that's any good. So what we do is we negotiate less practice time, less football activity. So a lot of guys train like track stars. They jump over boxes and they do a bunch of crap that doesn't really relate to football. Then you get on a football field and, you limit yourself from the standpoint of, working against somebody, working against another human being where, you have to develop that kinesthetic awareness and you got to develop that balance and with somebody else pushing on you and doing all that stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons that there are so many, it feels to me like there are so many more injuries early in training camp and early throughout the season than there were when I was playing. So, and I think it's because all we did was football stuff. All off season, and now they rarely do anything that's football related.
Speaking of someone who's dealing with, I guess, a minor injury, that would be Russell Wilson. He's got a little bit of a calf strain, and I'm curious, to get your opinion on how that quarterback battle between him and Justin Fields will play out this year, because it feels like, in the long haul, you would want to put your money with Justin Fields, right? Like, that's a guy you can have for a long time. You can build an offense around him, but Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. Like, here and now, that might be a guy that helps your team in the foreseeable future. Like, how do you see that playing out in Pittsburgh between those two guys?
Yeah, well, I think it depends. I mean, Russell is limited in his ability to execute an offense, and he's struggled the last several years, and so he's trying to really regain kind of quote unquote his form. But he's, in my opinion, he's his own worst enemy, because he's one of those guys that doesn't really understand that there's certain things he's just not any good at, and it's interesting. As I went through my career and became more and more injured and less athletic, there were a bunch of things that I just didn't do well. Right? I couldn't do X, Y, and Z, but I was really good at A, B, and C. And so I had a coaching staff that just said, "Hey, let's just do A, B, and C," and I was okay just doing A, B, and C because I knew that's what I was good at. And here's a guy that fancies himself Drew Brees, and he's not even close. He's not. So you've got to be able to look at yourself very critically. You've got to be able to look at yourself and say, these are my strengths, and I'm good at this. And then more importantly, these are my weaknesses, and I gotta stay away from that stuff. Now, ultimately, if you're talking about what kind of offense they want to do in Pittsburgh, well, Justin Fields has got limitations as well. But he's a young, more ascending player, where Russell's more of a older descending player. But if they're going to base themselves on a real strong running game and want a quarterback that can do that as well, with the two running backs they have, and then use that quarterback, that play action, and that quarterback ability to run, then to me it's a foregone conclusion. It's a matter of time before Fields becomes your starter. And with Russell, nursing a calf injury and not practicing as much, it'll be interesting if that happens sooner than later.
Mark, the Lions and the Giants had a joint practice or scrimmage or whatever you want to call it. They're now been fined because there's a ton of battles between high-profile players on both sides. So is this unusual? Is it a good statement by the Giants, or what are the Lions doing? Like, how do you evaluate what happened with this joint practice?
Yeah, I mean, joint practice is always interesting because, you practice against each other, your own teammates, and then it just ratchets up the competitiveness. And usually there's always a fight or two and some things that break out. So it's just pretty much standard. But it's great to work against another team. It's great to work against guys you haven't necessarily studied. And the competitive juices flow. But it's really what teams have decided to do, as opposed to the preseason games where they just don't play anybody. They want to do it all in more of a controlled environment. And so that's why the joint practices have become, frankly, the joint practices are more important than the preseason games. And every team, wants to be involved in several of them. So, like several different teams coming in and out of your training camp. So that's just become the way it operates now with 3 preseason games. And hell, when they move to 18 total games, then they'll probably do 2 preseason games and even have more joint practices. So that's kind of where teams have gone into.
With Mark Schlereth. So Josh Allen was asked today at camp in Buffalo about Stefon Diggs leaving the team and whether or not he'll miss him. This is what Allen had to say.
I think Steph's a great player, and what he brought to this team was special. So miss is I don't know if I'd say miss. He was a guy that was reliable. You can look to. He's going to have the juice each and every day. I'm sure he's bringing it over there in Houston. So definitely, you can't say that you don't miss that. But I am very happy with what we got going on here and how hard the guys have been working.
Do you think he'll miss Stefon Diggs? Should he miss Stefon Diggs? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I thought about this from day one. Stefon is an unbelievably talented guy. And I think he's also an unbelievable, pain in the ass. And so there comes a time where you just get tired of it. As a football team, as an organization, you get tired of babysitting. And so, sometimes it's addition by subtraction. And Stefon is incredibly talented, but, there's a reason this incredibly talented player has gone from Minnesota to Buffalo and now Buffalo to Houston. It gets to the point where he wears out his welcome. And so, I get to the point where I look at that from a player's perspective, and you get tired. You get tired of that on your football team, and it ends up sometimes becoming more of a hindrance than it does a help. And so when that happens, it's time to move on. And I think Buffalo will be fine. I think they're a talented football team. The other thing that I think will happen for Josh Allen, honestly, from a coaching staff standpoint, oftentimes in Buffalo, especially toward the end of games, it's as though the coaching staff forgets to coach and just says, hey, Josh Allen, go win this for us. Mm-hmm. And I see that too often where they just throw it all on Josh Allen and go, hey, go win us a football game. And I think it lets them off the hook, and it puts way too much of the onus on Josh. And so I think that this is going to be ultimately, it may hurt them for a while in the short run, but ultimately I think it'll be a good thing for Josh Allen, a good thing for the Buffalo Bills.
Is there a team in your mind that should be the most eager to pick up the phone and make a trade for Brandon Aiyuk?
Well, that's a funny one for me because, to me, wide receiver is the most dependent position in football. 10 other guys have to do their job exceptionally well for you to sniff a football. And, Brandon Aiyuk has been a guy that's been benched in the past, early in his career, has been a guy that's taken a while to develop. And I look at him in San Francisco and the weapons that they have and the way they run their offense, and he's the third or fourth option. And I know he had a tremendous season last year. He had a tremendous season. But, when you sit down, and I sit down with defensive coordinators, did their last two games last year, the San Francisco 49ers, one against Washington, one against the Rams. When you sit down with coaching staffs, the first guy they're trying to take out of the offense is Christian McCaffrey. The second guy is Deebo Samuel. The third guy is usually it's a mixture between Aiyuk or George Kittle. So, at some point, they're offering you a huge contract. At some point, you probably ought to be realistic with what you mean, in the offense that you play in and how it takes the pressure off of you to perform. So, you sit there and think, well, I put up these numbers. I deserve to be the third highest paid receiver in football. No, you don't. Hey, I know some fans look at him that way, but I don't think anybody in football that I've talked to that I know looks at that. Well, you go, hey, who's the best three receivers in football? Nobody says Brandon Aiyuk. They're talking about Jefferson. They're talking about other guys. And like I said, he's your third or fourth option in that offense. So, it's your defense coordinator. You're like, hey, man, the one guy we're not going to let beat us today is Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel. So you're not going, hey, the one guy we're not going to let us beat us today is Brandon Aiyuk. If Brandon Aiyuk beats your ass, then you tip your cap and go, wow, they're a really good team. So, he wants top 10 money or whatever he wants. I wouldn't pay him top 10 money.
Sticking with the receivers, another guy, Davante Adams with the Raiders. They've got the semi-new coach and Antonio Pierce and quarterbacks kind of coming in and out. How does this all play out for the Raiders and their pretty big fan base in Canada?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, exactly what the Raiders do. And Antonio Pierce, and I worked in TV with Antonio for years. A great dude, really motivates. He lets the players kind of run the show, and those guys played hard for Antonio. So, I think the Raiders are a pretty talented football team. Just a lot of questions about the quarterback, who's going to be the quarterback, and how they're going to operate. But Davante Adams is he's just a top flight, top notch dude when it comes to the way he plays the game. It'll be interesting to see exactly how that works out because he went there to be with Derek Carr, and then of course Derek Carr gets traded. So it'll be interesting. But that guy is still one of the elite dudes, one of the elite route runners, and just super, super smart. So, really, really sees the game like a quarterback and have that kind of connection with Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure that's what he's looking for now. And I just don't know if the Raiders are going to get it in that division, obviously, with Jim Harbaugh coming to the Chargers and, then Patrick Mahomes and what he's been able to do and accomplish and what the Chiefs have been able to do. And, and the Broncos, getting a young quarterback in the draft and Bo Nix. It'll be interesting to see exactly how the Raiders fare within that division.
Are you a believer in Harbaugh in L.A., getting that program moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I really am. And it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens in regards to Justin Herbert because he's got that plantar fasciitis in his foot. And, they say he'll be ready to go for the season. But that is one of those things that just lingers, man. That can just be, detrimental all season long. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how that goes. But I just love the philosophy. I mean, he won a national championship in Michigan just because he bludgeoned people. And, like, in a day and age in the NFL where everybody's trying to run a spread offense and everybody's trying to throw the ball, and I mean, you throw the ball enough and you develop a young quarterback. That's like Viagra to 80-year-old owners. They cannot get enough of that, right? That just makes them. That just makes them, stand at attention. So, I just believe in controlling lines of scrimmage and beating people up, and that's exactly what he did in Michigan, and I think that's exactly what he's going to try to build in Charger land as well, which is really going to help. I think really going to help the young quarterback. And I mean, they let go of all their receivers. They just said, "See you later. We'll do it without you guys." And so it'll be really kind of an interesting kind of experiment to see exactly how it goes, because I do believe that Justin Herbert's exceptionally talented. And, I always joke around on my radio program in Denver, the Chargers are going to charge her. They'll find a way to screw something up at the end of the game. That's just who they've always been. Mm-hmm. But I think they'll rectify some of that with Jim.
He is a longtime NFLer, Super Bowl champ, NFL on Fox, Stinkin Truth podcast host, Mark Schlereth. Always great catching up with you, Mark. We'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
You got it. Take care, guys.
There he is, Mark Schlereth, who is a believer in Harbaugh, but I think it's going to take some time. They got to put the pieces back together out there in L.A. And again, you got the Chiefs. They're not going anywhere. So I don't know what that division is going to be like. I think Denver's going to be terrible. Vegas will just be okay. 7-8 wins.
Who's their quarterback again? Is it?
Well, they had.
Is it Carr?
No, they got rid of Carr.
Minshew. Don't they have Minshew and then Aiden? Is it Aiden McDonald? What's his name?
Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah. That's it.
It's not a good scene out there. Because remember, they had Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's right.
Yeah, they had Jimmy Garoppolo, and then Jimmy was a mess and was injured all the time, and they just said, this isn't going to work for us. So they're in a position where they need to find a quarterback. And if you don't have a quarterback, you can't win in the NFL.
You're so desperate to have a quarterback.
Yeah, you have to. You have to have something that's competent that can make it work. And they don't have that. So yeah, I think it's the Chiefs are going to get there. Chiefs are going to get their 10 wins, 11 wins, cruise to the playoffs, and then we'll see what else everyone else does. All right, Jays Orioles tonight. We'll get back into that. We've got our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Mark Shapiro speaking earlier today. We'll get back into some of his comments. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, we'll get to our best bets coming up with the help of Healthy Planet. Vanilla Prepaid and Petro-Canada. TSN 1050 is donating $10,000 to the TDSB's Backpacks and School Supplies Drive, and you can help out too. Donations are being accepted now through the end of September. Head to tsn1050.ca to donate today and ensure students have access to the tools they need to succeed this year. I like that. We're doing back to school reads.
There we go.
Now, it's August 7th, man. It's getting there, right? Strud, you got kids. Frankie, your kids are too young. You're not worried about school right now, but
we're in one right now, man.
You're in one right now?
I forget so many things.
Yeah.
Like you have your daily to-do list. I forget it every day.
Yeah.
I maybe get one thing. I might get one thing. Like the most important thing I'll hit, items 2 through 5, I can't remember.
Don't blame you.
Yeah.
I know what you're going through, Strud. You remember those days? I mean,
that's a lot.
It's a different beast.
Diapers, laundry, naps for the kids. You're just running around. You're feeding them. You're keeping it. It's a lot. It's a lot to take up. But I mean, it's awesome. But then they get older. They have other problems. They start having opinions on what they want to do. And that's a challenge.
That is a challenge. That is a big challenge. Yeah, I'm in that phase where it's like, well, we don't want to do this. Like, well, it wasn't really an option. We're just telling you what our plans are.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what we're doing.
Yes.
And you can choose to come or not. And that doesn't always go over well. So I've had to modify my approach.
Well, modifying is important, right? Modern parenting is about modifying. You got to do that. But school is less than a month away.
How happy do parents parents like you guys that have kids that go back to school, how happy do you get on that day?
It is different, man. It is.
Yeah.
Struddy, you can speak to it. Your kids are a bit older than mine, but mine are both in the same school, and it's a thing now. It's like, all right, let's get back in a routine here. This summer thing, it's cool for like a couple of weeks. You know, 2 months is a completely different story.
Yeah, routine is nice. It is a little sad because they're going back, and then you have to kind of get going again. But I have 3 kids in 3 different schools. Like, it'd be too easy for them all to go to the same school, right? So again, that's another one of those opinions. They're voicing their opinions about where they want to go. So it's like a hour and some drive by the time I drop everyone off at their various schools. Make sure everyone's got their lunches packed. But who am I kidding? I'm not making lunches.
Yeah, well, that's exact. My wife's. She's the queen of making lunches. She does great. Same. I'm always there to help. What do you need? I'm the water bottle guy. Right. I'm on that. I'm always there for drop off, and we're always making sure. I got to make sure I got the hats there, the sunscreen there. That's all. I know what I need. You talk about a checklist. I know I'm on it. But I've made the lunches, and you speak of opinions. It comes back. It's like, well, why'd you do that? We don't eat that. I'm like, well, sorry, I wasn't aware of it. I thought I made a nice lunch. Like, I don't remember ever talking to my parents about my lunch.
Never.
Ever. If it was there, I was like, okay, this is what it is. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know how many days there are in a school year. Like, let's call it 180 days in a school year. I don't think that's the right number, but let's just say that's it. I had a mortadella sandwich for 165 of those days.
Same thing every day.
Little bit of butter on the bread, mortadella sandwich, and just shut up and eat it.
Yeah.
That's
what it is.
What is that?
Yeah, what is a mortadella?
It's a deli meat.
Well, Hayes is acting like he knows. He's like, oh, yeah, he's in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah,
I know exactly what that is.
Hayes knows because he went to St. Mike's with all the Italians.
Yeah, that's true, man. They throw those at me.
Is that cheese?
It's an Italian deli meat.
It.
It's Italian deli meat.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
Mortadella. Yeah, you would have sold me on cheese too, Strud. You're right.
Did you put anything on that? Like, could your mom put any sauce or anything? Or is it
I was
just
a very picky eater as a kid, very plain eater, Struddy. So it was just bread, deli meat, bread.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
That's it. That's fine, man. You can live off that. You made it. You survived.
Look,
no issues, man. Mixing a fruit every once in a while, maybe a bag of chips or something, you're fine.
Yeah, I'd trade the Twinkie for a piece of fruit.
Well, even like we were talking about porta potties earlier today, which this is not where I'm going with this, but and I don't know why I brought that up as a reference into the next conversation I was about to have. But kids now, they all have water bottles that they bring to school. No one had water bottles when we were kids, right? You had to put your hand up and say, "Can I go to the sink?" And who knows what was going on with that sink?
Fountain.
That's where I was going with that's why I brought up the porta potty, because there would be a communal sink, and you're like, I don't know. The kindergarten kids just rolled through here. Who knows what they're doing with that thing,
dude? There was always that one kid. If you put your hand up to go to the bathroom, you would see the one kid who had their lips wrapped around that thing, and you're like, I'm going to have to drink from that in an hour.
Yes. And you did. You're like, well, what else am I going to do? I don't have any other access to water.
In a way,
I don't have any liquid in this school right now.
In a way, in your head, did you say, maybe it's kind of self-cleaned itself a little bit?
Yes.
That kid
somehow it's in a better place now. You have to get to that mentality, Strud. What else could you do? Yeah. You didn't have anything else to drink.
No, you didn't. But to me, the water bottle is a racket, just like Christmas trees. Fake Christmas trees are with lights. Like, the whole thing's a racket. Like, whoever decided we all need to have water bottles. Like, my kids, they don't even use glasses at home. They need to use a water bottle. I'm like, It's the same thing. It's a water. You just drink it out. My parents, I remember going on drives for hours, not a drink, not a snack,
nothing.
Maybe they threw a magazine back there, just to check it out, horse, what's it, Farm and Horse or whatever it's called. That's what we look at. Now we got stuff. We got iPads, drinks, snacks, a second snack, a second water bottle in case the first one. It is outrageous.
Frankie's a part of the problem.
I don't go anywhere without this thing, Struddy. I swear to God, if I take my dog for a walk, I bring my water bottle. It's a 10-minute walk.
You're a part of the problem. It's a racket. I agree, Struddy. You're right.
Racket.
You're right.
$50 water bottles. I've seen my friends with $50 water bottles. I mean, it's more expensive than a good bottle of wine.
Yeah,
making me thirsty now. I'm going to drink some water because all the water talk is making me thirsty.
Yeah. And then people say it tastes better. Oh, it tastes better out of a more expensive water bottle? That is the racket.
Bogus.
That's the water bottle racket.
Yep.
They're winning. They're winning right now.
It's the water bottle industry. It's the new tobacco industry. We need to put an end to it.
Push back.
I need to push back on this. You need to have a good water bottle because males have microplastics in their testicles. You need to have
a legitimate
water bottle without the microplastics.
Guess what? That study said 100% had it. So it doesn't matter how many water bottles you use, or if you use one, you can have that bottle the rest of your life and wash it every single day. You're no different than Struddy and I. We got the same issues, man.
Well, because I had all the microplastics for years. I'm trying to rid myself of the microplastics.
You can't get rid of them.
I gotta minimize it.
No, they're in there forever, man. You're done. You can't get away from it.
Too many mortadella sandwiches.
Too many mortadellas.
That's what's bogging you down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's another thing, opinions. Like, my kids are like, well, we need a Stanley Cup or whatever. I'm like, well, get to the NHL and win one.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. What do you want me to do for you?
Earn it.
But now you got to have the water bottles, and you got to have the different colored water bottles, and there's got to be an indoor one and an outdoor one.
Individual snacks.
Individual snacks.
They'd get pretzels, a bag of pretzels. We'd jam our hand in there and get it out. Not my wife. They all have their own little container, equally weighed out. I'm like, let's fight for it. Let the strongest survive. Might is right.
Exactly.
You know, like, let's get out there.
Exactly, man. Lord of the Flies. It was Lord of the Flies. Who's going to survive here?
Jeez.
And you're right, man. I'm having flashbacks. Like, we used to do drives. Like, we would go down to, like, drive to Boston or New York. Like, me, my sisters. I don't remember one thing in that car. Like, I don't remember ever having a drink, food. There was obviously no iPads. We had to listen to my dad's music. He'd be playing music you wouldn't believe. Like, he'd be playing music that if I played it for you, you'd say that's cruel, and that there should have been authorities called on that.
Man.
Well, like
Zamfir.
Yeah, exactly.
My mom and dad, Zamfir and Nana Muscuri. And no disrespect to them, but I was like, then Canada's Songbird. I really liked Anne Murray. Yeah. I would always like Danny. Well, she got me really fired up. I loved her singing, but it was. They're
crazy.
So spoiled now, so spoiled.
And it's our generation. We've done it. They
have car seats. Yeah. We didn't have car seats.
Oh man, you sit in the trunk. No seatbelt.
Sit on the trunk.
Oh yeah.
Sit on the trunk. Yeah. Hold the mattress down.
Right.
All the time.
Right after one of your parents lit a smoke with the windows up.
Always, man.
Just no problem.
Yeah.
And us. Yeah, crazy.
No, that's the truth. Remember sitting in the trunk looking backwards at traffic? Now, that's a good thing that we've developed as a society 100%. To the point where seatbelts are mandatory and kids aren't sitting in the trunk. But that was a thing, man. I remember that in the 80s. Yeah, just get in the trunk.
I was around for the tail end.
Like not a closed trunk. I mean like a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Like a wagon or something where you're back. Like they weren't.
Let's not go crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't like a Joe Pesci scene where I'm in the trunk and they're like, all right, we'll let you out when it's.
Fair point.
The sun's gone down.
Yeah. I was around for the very tail end days of the restaurant smoking section.
Yes.
Like I remember going.
Can you believe
with
how
my
stupid
dad,
that is now?
And it's smoking or non-smoking.
Smoking or non.
Yeah.
Like I would be in smoking and you would be in non.
Yeah.
And I'm blowing darts the whole time and you're in non-smoking. Like who created that?
Tried on planes. Do you remember that on planes?
Yeah,
There's
I was not around for that.
Yep.
And
I remember
just
that.
Start lighting it up the darts. Like, it's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible.
One side of the plane, you could blow darts. The other side, we'd prefer not. We're living a healthier lifestyle. Okay, well, I'll go up in this box, and half the place will be smoking, and yet you're on the other side, so you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Smoking or non is what? That is something that if you were born, I guess, 95 or later, maybe 2000 or later, like the idea of walking into a restaurant, and that was the first thing that they asked you, not how many, not, are there other people coming, smoking or non?
Oh, yeah.
That was it.
Dude, we had a routine.
Non.
Me and my dad.
Sometimes it would be like, whatever you got.
We'd go.
Whatever's available.
Saturday mornings, we'd go I'd have power skating, and I had my team practice after, but we had time for a meal in between. We'd go to Jack Astor's in Woodbridge, and they would ask us, smoking or non-smoking?
In the morning.
Yeah.
Smoking
what did you eat
or
there,
non?
buddy? If you're such a picky eater, what are you eating there? Like, obviously, you brought your water bottle with you.
Well, I didn't have a water bottle back then.
Mortadella and a water bottle. Frankie brought his own lunch to Jack Astor.
That was, those were the days where you just you were in the greasy dressing room at the arena and you just shoved your head under the sink tap.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Well, that was another thing, sharing water bottles at practice in games.
Oh,
you'd be on the bench, right? There'd be two bottles. Yeah. There'd be one for the defense, one for the forwards.
Dude,
we never had individual bottles.
The best was, as you got older, it was we got to buy the bottled water because we got to have the quality water at home, right? But then 6 days a week, you're at the hockey arena, and Joe, the trainer, is filling up the Canadian Tire. Basically shower water, cold shower water, and that's what you drank at night, every night for 6 nights a week. But you had the bottled water at home because it was better for you.
Oh, yeah.
I went to Hungary to play hockey during the lockout of 04-05. And I arrived, and I arrived there, and there was the best tasting Gatorade I ever had. It wasn't called Gatorade, but it's something else. I was the only one drinking it. It was so good, I loved it. And the guys always kind of look at me and be like, why is this guy drinking? I loved it. I pounded it. It was so good. It was like that McDonald's stuff you used to get, the orange stuff.
drink.
I get there a little early for practice one day. I walk in. Our trainer, who is probably 80 years old, he's filled it up, pours it in goes the arm. He's stirring it with his arm. And there was scabs on this arm. I almost puked. So I told the guys, and they're like, we were waiting to see when he find out. I was so disgusting. What should have been on those hands? Literally his hairy arm, big Hungarian arm in there rotating it around.
Yeah.
Even now, I may as well flick to porta potty.
Yeah, that basically is a full arm in there. Wild scene, man. That's a wild. And Struddy, no wonder you're the only one drinking it because the other vets were like, I know the whole operation here.
The Hungarians weren't buying into it. I was loving. I'm not kidding you guys. I was having bottle after bottle after bottle of this stuff. It was so good.
What are the chances, Struddy? That guy washed his hands after he took a dump.
Never, dude. Come on. That was it. There's no chance. And Struddy was the one that was going to be paying the price for it.
Zero.
Your teammates failed you there. Like, not one of those. Like, I know when you go overseas, like, you know, maybe there's a little contention at first between the imports and you know, the local guys. Like, you know, they're feeling you out. What's this guy all about? But at some point, they would have realized you're a pretty good guy. One of the guys should have been like, hey, man, do you know how that thing is made?
They loved it. I didn't know. I could have swam in the river in Paris and not got sick. That's how much I took in of that Gatorade.
Maybe you got to consider that, right? Like it actually did some great things for your immune system.
Nothing could kill me now. Even dirty water bottles.
If you made it through that. Yeah, man. Water bottles.
Sick.
Now I would guess, like, I know when I drop my kids off at sports, like they have their own water bottles, which again is like a good thing. I'm not even saying that it's not. It's just that it has changed. Like I remember getting in fights on the bench where the defenseman had taken all the bottles. You ever remember that, Struddy? And there'd be a battle, and they'd be like, throw bottles down. Like we're up at the front of the, like you're trying to, your forwards are like, there's no bottles, you know, or the trainer would miss the game and you wouldn't have a bottle. Like the guy with the bottles would be like, I'm in traffic, I'm not going to make it. And you're like, we're playing a game tonight and there's no water.
Or who's filling the bottles tonight?
Or
who's filling the bottles, right? Always.
I'm
not filling them. I filled them 2 weeks ago.
Right. Who's filling the bottles with the Chesswood shower water? Basically, and it's like, that's all we need, man. Just give me something.
There's a green hue around the spout where the water comes out, and you're like, I hope that's not anything bad, and I really hope it's not touching the water as it enters the bottle.
It's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. Yep, this is where we're at. That's sports for you now. There's your water bottle. That's a very nice water bottle, I will say that.
I got it from Noodles, actually.
The Noodles, of course, Noodles would be hoarding TSN products.
No, he brought them in for everyone.
I never received one of those.
Rage and Frenzy. There was a whole table full of these
things. Really?
Wow. Yeah.
So what, Noodles just produces TSN water bottles now?
Noodles
Let's
is
be
the
honest.
man.
Noodles pours in Coke Zero in there. He's not drinking water. I doubt they never drinks anything. I've never seen him drink plain water. It's always flavored.
He does look like the kind of guy that will not drink water. He's like John Daly.
He said that. Yeah. He's basically said like he has to have some kind of flavor.
I don't like water.
He can't drink water.
Yeah.
It needs some flavoring.
He is, actually, now that I think about it, I mean, you know him longer than I have, Strud, but I've known him like 12 years. I don't ever think I've seen him drink water before.
No, he doesn't, guys. Yeah. I'm telling you, he doesn't drink water. He's a professional athlete. Just think about that. I mean, he was a goalie, so I'm not sure that counts, but still.
Right.
He was a professional athlete that never drank water.
He's a professional athlete that did not drink water.
That's
incredible.
Donovan Bailey, side by side. Just think about that. They're both considered professional athletes.
Both great Canadian athletes.
At the top of their field.
Yeah, both great Canadian iconic athletes.
There would have been a night like Noodles pitched a shutout in the NHL, and he would have been the best goalie that night in the National Hockey League. Compare that to Donovan Bailey being the best at his position.
It might have happened in Atlanta against the Thrashers. We should look that up. Look that up, Doogie. Did Noodles ever get a shutout in Atlanta where he can match the same kind of vibe that Donovan Bailey supplied back in 96? It might have been in 96. It wouldn't surprise me.
And he would have an orange crush after. Over ice.
I love Noodles just peddling water bottles to people on Free Agent Frenzy.
Dude, he walked in with like
Hey,
a whole bunch of them. He set them down on a table. Like, guys, feel free, help yourselves.
Good for him. I didn't realize he was involved in that. Yeah, that's his budget. He runs the TSN water bottle budget.
He's not using them.
Exactly. It's water.
I'm not going to get into the logistics of the water bottle.
We got to find out about that. I think Noodles might join us tomorrow. We'll get you that answer. I think we got to get him on tomorrow. We got to ask him, have you had water in the last 30 years, 35? Like, I'm sure at some point in his life he had to drink water. It's like Al Michaels with vegetables. Like, Al Michaels will not eat vegetables, right?
Not knowingly. Never knowingly eaten a vegetable.
Right.
What?
So did Noodles unknowingly take a sip of water once, like just plain water, and spit it out? Was he really thrown off by that? Has that happened at all? We'll get those answers tomorrow. Hard-hitting analysis and journalism with Noodles tomorrow. All right. We'll come back and get to our best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel. Mark Shapiro speaking earlier today. Made it sound like Atkins is going to return, John Schneider's going to return, and he didn't mix words. Like, they plan on competing. He said the word championship and the year 2025 in the same sentence. That's the plan. More on that still to come. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, so Doogie looked it up. Apparently, Noodles never had a shutout against the Atlanta Thrashers. So he can't match the greatness of Donovan Bailey in the city of Atlanta. But I'm sure he's been close, and they're just both great athletes. No other way to put it, man.
Agreed. Noodles might be an even greater athlete in the sense that, like, he did it without having water.
Yes,
Think about
he doesn't
that.
drink water.
Did it without water.
He's got great water bottles.
Yes.
Right? He's got the best water bottles you can find. And I guess it's not a water bottle necessarily in terms of it doesn't have to be water. You can put anything you want in there. Yeah. And Noodles will put flavored water. He's a big flavored water guy.
I mean, you could also make the case that Noodles is a more impressive story because he really did it with no athleticism either. You know, so no, that's a compliment, though, guys.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It really, yeah, it really is. When you put it that way, Strud, you're making a lot of sense, man.
I mean,
You're
out of
making a lot
nowhere,
of sense. Yep.
Cinderella story.
It is a Cinderella story. It's just work ethic and determination, and grace too. Like everything, man. That's what Noodles brought to the table throughout his career, and he's continued it throughout his broadcasting career.
Can you imagine what now a team's nutritionist would say if he told them what he ate during the summer, in season? They'd be like, how do you even function? Like, honestly.
Yeah. It is a good question. Like, if you could go back in time and apply today's like standards with like diets and you know, just everything that comes with being a pro athlete in the modern world to 1994. You know, go back 30 years from now where Noodles was drinking flavored water and Orange Crush and eating specifically like bland pasta and chicken. That's it.
Yeah.
And how would that work? And somehow he made it. And had a great career. So there you go. Noodles is the man.
He is.
And
he's something, all right.
Yeah, he's something, that's for sure. All right, time now for our best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel. I'm going back to the well. Shout out to the Jays. They made me wrong last night. I was right with Vladdy recording a hit. I'm going to go back to the well on that as well tonight. I'm also going to go back to the well like I did last night, suggesting that the Orioles are going to win tonight. Best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Orioles money line, Vladdy to record a hit, and Ryan Mountcastle to also record a hit. He's a J killer. We know that. We talked about him yesterday. Mountcastle rolls into the Rogers Center. He always seems to be dialed in. That parlay paying plus 193. Shout out to the Jays last night. Got themselves a win. I don't believe it'll happen again tonight. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19 plus, physically located in Ontario. When do you think we hear from Mark Shapiro again? Spoke today.
End of the season.
Season's done?
Yeah, once the season's done. He's got to do like a, State of the Union, address everyone at the end of the season. He has to.
Well, and it sounds, based on what he said today, he's a big fan of continuity and consistency, that Atkins will return, John Schneider will return, at least according to him, and if it's up to him, like ownership could step in and make a decision that they're going to go in a different direction. But he also said on the record, like, we believe that we can chase a championship next year in 2025. Not just be competitive. He used the word championship.
Strong words.
So that's it. You set the standard, man. All right, there it is. Championship or bust. That also might be an admission by him that he understands. Like, if it doesn't happen next year, that is going to be the end of the road. Like, there's no pulling it back in after that.
I don't know
They'll
what
make
you can
massive
find.
changes if it's a mess.
I don't know what narrative you can find that would lead you into 2026 at that point. You've exhausted everything.
You've been a decade here. It's like, all right, one last kick at the can. Let's see what you got. All right, Struddy. Good stuff, buddy. As always, we'll catch you tomorrow. We're looking forward to that.
Can't wait. Good seeing you, Franklin.
Yep,
yeah, you too, Struddy.
Frankie,
pleasure.
Great seeing you as always as well. Frankie Corrado. Good stuff to everyone behind the scenes. Always appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today. Radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.